What's up, guys? We're going over Love Runs Out today. Super sick song. Martin Garrix kind of always veers off to the pop side. You know, In the Name of Love, Scared to Be Lonely, Drown, Pressure, and now we got Love Runs Out. Super sick song with some really good vocals. The vibe is just kind of dark, but it's uplifting. It's kind of this like trap, feature-based, hip-hop style song, and all of these sounds are also included for free at my website, klingmusic.com. So I'll link that down below. And now let's get straight into it. So when I was creating this lead, I wasn't sure where to start. You know, it really sounds like a guitar, a violin, a vocal chop, and I feel like it could have been a synth too. So what I decided to do was to just put all this together into one. And solo it out, it sounds like this. So we have about 5 layers for the lead, and like I said before, it is like a mix between a lot of stuff. And the first one is Lead Future Vox 2 from my Vital Bank Plus X, which if you're interested, you could check out. And I actually created a video talking about how to make these types of leads, but all that I did here was I loaded a sample of me just saying some kind of vowel, and after that I just put them inside of Vital in the wavetable. And then I'm controlling the wavetable with the LFO1 here. And then altogether it sounds really nice. The second layer, we have some staccato violas from Flex. Just adding a lot of realness, and I feel like the staccatos work a lot better than the sustained violins, especially for leads. Next, we got the vocal sample lead. I just chopped up the actual acapella, which I use Isotope's RX8, which is a super sick way to get acapellas. So the last layer before the guitar is the sustained violin. And you might be thinking, why would we ever want to play just one note from it? Well, it's to accentuate certain parts to add more power to it. So in the melody, it kind of takes a little pause at this part. I felt like that little extra did a little bit and added a little more character, a little more power, and overall just more juice. And then the final layer, which was my favorite by far, was this guitar layer. And this was, of course, played by my good friend Nate, who's always on the ball for this kind of stuff. And I actually just received the guitar dry like this. And I added this plugin from Waves called GTR Tool Rack. It's in the basic overdrive setting, and it's just adding a lot of distortion basically to give it like a rock kind of sound. So the lead processing. What's our goal? Our goal is to really get all of these weird sounds that really don't go together, get them to sound complete and whole like it's coming from one source. And the best way to do that is to group all of these sounds together, put them in a bus, add compression, EQ, reverb, put it all together. We just have some OTT, and then we have an EQ because a lot of these sounds are pretty harsh, so we're trying to dampen that a little bit. And then we have the one and only RC20 giving it a little bit of a vibey color. The one thing that it is doing is giving us that vibrato effect on that one note. And what I did was I automated the wobble knob, and if we actually exaggerate this, it sounds like garbage. But just a little bit, 8 to 12% is going to do it just right. And my compressor of choice here was the R compressor. And this is just gluing all the sounds together, making it sound full and complete. And the final thing in the chain are all of these reverb, delays. They're all having their own purpose. And then we have some delay and reverb throws. And the delay is cool because we're automating the input. So if we automated the wet knob of the delay, we're gonna get those delay notes from before. The only delay it's gonna shoot out is what we tell it to. So in this case, I just wanted it to be this note. And then this delay throw is just getting automated in those empty areas. And then, of course, at the end of the chain, we have a fruity limiter giving us our sidechain to the kick. And to do this, just find your kick in your mixer, click on the channel that you want, dial this knob back right here, and then load up a fruity limiter, go to the compression setting, right click on sidechain, and then boom, your kick will be right there. And then just take back the threshold a little bit, put the need ratio up, and then boom, you got some sidechain. The bass is pretty much just a reslayer, a really big sub bass, and then some little bass fills as well. The first layer is bass Reese Face from Plus X. And when I make Reese basses, I try to make sure I cut out a lot of that high end because we don't really want that. And we also don't want a lot of that low end too because that's going to be reserved for the sub bass. And speaking of our sub bass, this is also just a preset from Plus X. It's basically just a bunch of sine waves, and we also have a square wave here with the sync on at 66%. And now we got that little distorted bass fill. And the sound here is really simple to make. It's just a square wave with a lot of distortion. And I'm using Wave Shaper for the distortion right there like that. And then there's also an EQ getting rid of that high end. So these pads and brass are a key part to the entire song. The pad is just a simple pad from 3X. And then I heard this little future bass type saw right here. And this is just a preset from Plus X once again. It's called the delivery preset. And then I have a shaper box too giving us that future bass effect. If we take it off, it's just a straight saw wave. So that's giving us that little wobble. And then we got the brass. And then we also have a little brass fill, which is kind of complementing that bass fill too. Sounds really sick. We have a preset from Flex Orchestra. And then these two Cashmere presets are legit. Then all together. So one thing that I really noticed here is that the bass is sidechained way more than that lead. And the reason we have less on that lead is because that's not going to be interfering with that kick that much. But for the bass line, we want to sidechain that sub to the kick, because if that kick and sub were interfering, it would just be a big mess on that low end. So the drum pattern is honestly pretty simple here. We just have a basic future bass, kind of hip hop style drums. We have some two-step hi-hats, which I'm just adjusting the velocity like this. And then there's also a crash layered on the kicks sometimes, just to give it a little more power. And these open hats here at the end are super saucy. They sound super cool. The final piece of the drums here are this crash. How you make this is putting a kick and crash in the same bus. And then in that bus, we're going to drive a ton of Camel Crusher in there. Now, why would we do that? Because we're distorting them together. And that gives us this really big impact effect. Here's what it sounds like without. For the atmosphere effects here, we're just setting the vibe. Plain and simple, we're just setting the vibe. The first one is this 3-note guitar. And how I made that was I took this same one shot, pitched it down 12, ran it through a ton of reverb, and then out of that I got this. And then some final touches, we have some white noise and some nice vocal samples from me. Yeah. Hey. As close as I could to G-Eazy. And that's it for this one. I hope you guys learned a thing or two, and I'll see you guys in the very next video. Peace out.